never get another chance to catch this. In case you're wondering who's the winner, the name of the winner.
The Dream 3 podcast, episode number 44. We're talking World Cup soccer with WhiteFreezeWax. Let's get into it. All right, we're back. Episode number 44. We're here with Josh, aka WhiteFreezeWax on Instagram. We're talking World Cup soccer because when we need to talk soccer, we bring in our expert, Josh. Josh, let's get right into it. Obviously, World Cup's coming up. We've talked about this a ton on the podcast. This is kind of what we've been investing for at the beginning of this year. It's starting to come up sooner. The European League is starting to get back up. But let's talk about, right off the bat, Team USA, people who we should be looking at for Team USA, because obviously that's the popular choice. Everybody's talking Pulisic, but is there anybody else we should be looking at?
I think I'll give like the top four guys that people should be paying attention to and buying rookie cards for. They're still pretty cheap. Even PSA 10, you buy Slab, and they're pretty cheap still. But Yunus Musa, he's one of our youngest players still. He's a midfielder, but he's going to score a lot. Plays for Valencia. He's already scored a couple goals over there. And I think people are touting him. He's going to have probably a more successful career than Pulisic right now. So he's really good. I think Timothy Weah, he's another one of our wingers. Another young guy. He plays in France right now, but he's injured at the moment, but that injury is good. He's going to be healthy for the World Cup. But he's another one of our wingers that scores a lot, and he's really good on the ball, dribbles well. Giovanni Reina is probably the most talented right now, and he's the youngest guy on the team. If anybody remembers when we played Mexico at the Azteca a couple months ago, he's the guy that dribbled through the whole Mexican team. But he's had a bunch of hamstring injuries over the last year, so he's been in and out of the team, but he looks to be healthy right now. He plays for Dortmund, and they're one of the best teams in Germany. And let's see. Then all these guys that I'm saying are the ones that are possibly going to be scoring, and our strikers, the ones who should be scoring the most. You know, in January, a Ricardo Pepi rookie card was going to be like $200 or $300, and obviously he moved to Germany and didn't do squat for the last 10 months. But he's got a loan to a team in the Netherlands, and he just scored his first professional goal there this last week. That's only in his second game. But he got called into this USA camp, which is a very good sign that he is going to be on the World Cup roster. And you can get his cards now for basically a tenth of what you could back in January. I still think that's kind of a good buy, even maybe not at this World Cup, but he's such a young American player. Like everyone, like I feel like fringe soccer fans still know who Ricardo Pepi is just because of the hype that he got in January this year. I think those are some guys that you still Jesus Ferreira, who I think is probably the better Ricardo Pepi. You can get his cards way cheaper than Ricardo Pepi's. I've got a couple of his Bowman rookies that I flipped when he's the guy that scored the 4 goals in one of the USA qualifiers over the summer. And I basically add a 0 to what I paid for the cards. And that's what I got for, I mean, yeah. And he is going to be the starter for USA. And I mean, if he has another 2 or 3 goal game, I mean, the sky's the limit for him. Yeah, and then Josh Sargent. I was talking to you about that uh, before we got on here. He is super hot in England right now, and this time last year, or when I started collecting at the beginning of the year, I couldn't find any of his rookies for under, 150, $200 that were slabbed or unslabbed. And I just got holographic optic PSA 9, which there aren't any PSA 10s of this guy yet, and as for $35. So, but looking at the stuff right now, all of his those are those Donruss rated rookies of him, and all of those now are for 150 or more. So but he's another good pick because he's going to be scoring goals for us at the World Cup. So
do you feel that people are not, I wouldn't say not as a team, but talking card wise, do you feel like people are sleeping on the Team USA players and focusing more on the Mbappes, the Hollands, even some of the guys they're putting their money in guys who aren't going to be in the World Cup games? They're just thinking the big five names in soccer.
Yeah, because it's crazy because Holland, he's not going to be in the World Cup because Norway didn't qualify. So he's not going to be there. From what I noticed, it's like the people that are the high dollar cards right now is just like your usual Holland, Mbappe, Neymar,
Messi.
Ronaldo, Messi, and then it's the Team USA guys. So I do think that you can still find good deals if you search for them and you get lucky with like an auction that just doesn't have, like, they didn't title it correctly or they missed. I got a really good deal on, I forget who it was, but just this last week because the guy misspelled the guy's last name. And so this is a card that I should have gotten for $200 and I ended up winning it for 30.
Yeah.
So
I used to do that with Lucas. When Lucas were popular, guys would spell Luka Doncic's name wrong, and you would get those auctions at so cheap.
Oh yeah, this is a Jonathan David he's like he's going to be this top scorer for Team Canada, and they're kind of a hot team right now. But this guy made Jonathan Davis, so no one was finding this auction, and yeah, I ended up getting a really good deal. So, but yeah, it seems like Team USA, MLS players that are about to get sold to European teams, their cards like skyrocket immediately, and then just the regular European guys. Those are those are all the hype guys. So it's really weird.
Yeah, it feels like, besides the big five, nobody really ventures out unless you're doing some major prospecting. And you know how that is in soccer is, you could get loaned out, have a terrible, or you could be a young prospect like you and me were texting that 15-year-old that started the Premier League game. And, the youngest person to ever start in a Premier League game, find some cards of him. My prospect is Mufoku. So,
he scored this last week.
He's 17. Yeah, he scored one or two goals last week. And, you look at some of the prospect cards, and basically if you get them young enough, you can basically ask for whatever you want, whether it be rookie, especially if it's a low number. Because remember, we went to that card show on the South Side, and I texted you about that Mufoku that I found at the show, and it was. Oh, you got me?
I got you now. Hold on.
Okay, no, it's all good.
My Wi-Fi keeps.
Well, as long as you can hear me,
I can hear you. Yeah.
All right. Well, we can do that. But yeah, I got that. That out of 10 that I texted you about the gold standard Mufoku, and I paid $350 for it, slabbed it. It came back at 10
anymore.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right. So I bought that Mufoku that I texted you about out of 10.
Which is a good
Sent it to-
card. Yeah.
Sent it to SGC. It came back a 10.
Oh
And
yeah.
now it's a prospect rookie, low numbered. Basically, at that point, you can ask whatever you want for it, because if it turns out and he hits and he's the prodigy that everybody thinks he is, or he gets sold to a Premier League team, or not sold, but he's contracted and he goes to a Premier League team like a Man City, or if he goes to Man U, his career is over. But a good team and blows it up there, then that's your home run hit. So do you feel that there are any of those type of players? I know it's really hard with the academies, but that fringe of 16 to 19-year-old, maybe young players on the bench of a European roster that people aren't talking about, that you could probably, get things pretty low and might have a decent comeback with?
That the problem is I don't think you can get them low anymore, because I mean there's prospecting in the sense of like everyone already knows it, because I think the culture of playing FIFA and FIFA Manager and stuff, the names before, because they all have the ratings and everything in the game.
Yeah.
That everyone already knows about them. So it's I mean, there are people like there's a couple guys that just moved to AC Milan. I know one who went to Bayern Leverkusen, Adam Hlozek, and I actually just made a great deal on his rookie sticker. That's my thing that I've kind of fallen into, that I really like, is getting like rookie stickers of like these guys that start playing in like Belgium or Japan, or like these super small leagues. They have their just rookie, just like out of like a yearbook kind of sticker, and then they get sold to a bigger team. Well, the only card you have of him playing in Netherlands or Belgium is this one sticker, and I kind of like that. But
kind of like those Timo Werner and the Kai Havertz cards that we got.
Exactly. Those that where they and Kai Havertz, his rookie card is a Match Attacks from 2016. That's 1 year ahead of those stickers that I get. But the problem with that is like Match Attacks is such like a dorky thing to like collect, that you could still. There's some people that will pay a lot of money for that stuff just because it is a Kai Havertz true rookie, and then there's other guys that are like, no, that is his rookie, but I'm not down with no Match Attacks.
No, they wait for the Panini stuff, the Donruss optics and stuff like that. They don't really pay attention to the. I understand what you're saying.
But yeah, that Adam Hlozek, he's from the Czech Republic, but he plays for Bayern Leverkusen right now. And I got his rookie sticker from when he played at Sparta Praha, some Czech Republic team. But as soon as he got sold to Leverkusen, the sticker that for $50, sold it for $175. So it's what people don't seem to understand yet about soccer cards is like, if you were to find, like, you do more like baseball, basketball, football, like what's a good, if you got a good guy, a good card, and you saw like the pop of that card was like pop 50 or pop 100, are you still thinking like that's like, okay, yeah, that's pretty good? Or like what's like what's the pop report where you're like, oh, where it's like the highest number but the lowest that you're like?
I still think anything under depending on the card base, this and that, if it's under 100 pop, it's still, pretty good. Even, mid 2000s card that has I've been buying one of those. I got a Devin Hester rookie auto that's a pop 47. Like, you think of Devin Hester, one of the greatest running or returners of all time, pop 47 on a PSA 9. And there's like 5 or 6 10s out there. We've talked about this all in the past, is low pop. Doesn't matter. Low pop is what people are looking for, because you don't want to run into a Zion, a Luka Doncic of PSA 10 pop 15,000, 20,000, something like that. They've just flooded the market.
It's basically useless.
I agree with you. Like, soccer cards are being overlooked because I spent the first half of this year, I was able to get not high-end soccer cards, but low number, like numbered cards out of 10, out of 25, low number cards. Buy them for single dollars, less than $10, send them to SGC, grade them, and turn around and flip them for 10, 20, 30%. Me not knowing any of these guys, and some of them I sent to you, you had no idea who they were, but yet people are buying them. Like, soccer, we forget in America how globally, soccer dominates, and that you could be shipping these cards on all sides of corners of the world. So that's been a good strategy at the beginning of this year.
I mean, just thinking of pop stuff and seeing what, for like baseball and football, some of the things are. And I've been collecting since January, so not that long. I've probably got somewhere between 10 and 15 cards that are good cards that are pop 5 and under. I have 5 or 6 pop 1s of stuff. And and I see other people like, why would you grade a Luka Doncic base card? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Why would you be one of, unless like you want it to have it, then that's fine. I'm not dogging that. But collecting, like, I think it's such it's still obviously a niche thing, but it's just seems ripe for, a bunch of people, especially with all the complaints that I've been seeing about like quality control for like the big products for like Panini and stuff is bringing out for football and basketball, and all they're just everything that was released this year. It's like they've got 150 different parallels, which this parallel might be out of 50, but there's like 100 other parallels of that same card. So what really is the worth of it,
So do you think soccer is still way too niche in America? Like, we see the grading reports and soccer's always at the bottom tier.
See, that's what I've been surprised about. I thought it would start ramping up a little bit more. It is ramping up. I've always heard this strategy of you want to sell your cards like before the NBA tournament, like the playoffs start. You always want to sell it during the hype of beforehand. And I like, when it comes to the World Cup, like all the regular like soccer card collectors that have YouTube stuff, they're always saying, oh, you want to sell during the hype before the tournament. I'm almost thinking, maybe for like a Team USA where we get hype here and everyone in America is going to hear our team's names and that stuff. That might be a strategy for Team America. But if you invested for players like Timo Werner, like these German players or the Netherlands team or other good French team players, you might want to wait till they like actually perform and do stuff in the tournament, and then just when their people start hearing their name and go, oh yeah, I want to get some Antoine Griezmann cards. He just scored 2 goals against England. We need to get that. Then you're like, oh yeah, here I've got. How about all these? I don't know. So it's, unless like the ramp up really starts happening like the month or so before, like I'm almost like a wait and see strategy and maybe not sell them too early. You know?
I think that the big difference between the soccer market and the big three here is, you're right. The normal collector thought process is sell before the season starts or sell at the hype point, because we know the start and the end of the big three sports. Not the problem, but the issue with soccer is not a lot of people understand how the seasons run. They don't understand national teams, clubs. You got to realize most of these guys play all year round. It's not like it's just a set season where you think of like NFL guys don't, they play the NFL season and then they go play the XFL, the USFL season, just to get ready for the next NFL season. Where in soccer, there's so many different, clubs, working down. It's almost like a AAA system in hockey and or baseball, where guys seem to get ready. So the selling at the hype point is kind of tough, because let's say, randomly, let's say a Weston McKennie does terrible during the Premier League, and then during that off time goes to some smaller club, kills it, and comes back into the Premier League, even though, maybe he's not the same. So where's your hype point? Are you hyped only during, Premier European stuff, or are you hyped during World Cup? So finding that point of sell is kind of tough.
See, that's why I kind of thinking I'm waiting till the actual games start, because it's like you have to sell it right after something happens.
Yes.
Because when I was saying before how these MLS it's Messi, Ronaldo, and these, maybe you've heard of them once or never heard of them, MLS guys that get sold. Those are the top selling number-wise or price-wise for soccer cards. And it's because that's when people hear about them. Oh, he just got sold to Bayern. Okay, let's get him.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard, we just got a dual national, his name Malik Tillman, but he, in May, he said he did his switch where he's like, oh, I'm going to play for I'm committing to Team USA. And that week after he did that, and that same week he got selected for Team USA and played a couple games with us, his cards that were, I'd never heard of the guy before. I'd heard his name, but I didn't really know anything about him. His cards were made like all under $10 and stuff before that, because he plays for Bayern, but like on their reserve squad. He never really started or anything. But the week he announced for Team USA and the rest of that week, it was like every card was add 2 zeros to any card that he had on it. And people like $400 or $500 for just like a sapphire base card of his. And it was like, and a month later, all those same cards were like $40-$50.
Wow.
So it's almost like you have to prepare for that rush that's going to happen at any moment. That's kind of what I'm thinking is for the World Cup, you're going to need to prepare for.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it's kind of seemed like this whole year with stuff is you have to pounce as soon. What is it? Strike as the iron's hot. Like that's exactly what you have to do.
Yep. If you want to make your percentage that we talked about, you got to do it. Yeah, if you want to make your percentage while it's hot, you got to do it quick. I'll give you just a couple more pieces because I know you got to run. So Mbappe signs an exclusive deal with Panini. So Mbappe autographs and jersey relics and stuff are exclusively to Panini. Holland is exclusively to Leaf. With the rumor of Panini being sold, and obviously Fanatics is going to take over a lot of the card market here shortly. Do you think that this is good or bad for the soccer market with two of the highest priorities of, let's say, the top tier game being in two different markets that are going to split. Now you look at the Mbappe stuff, it's basically a PSG set. It's not like it's inserted into, like a Merlin set or a Topps Chrome. Like it's a PSG only set. So is that
it's pretty
good
expensive too, isn't it?
Yeah. So do you think that that's good for the entire market as a whole, or is it just people that's going to drive the Mbappe market higher and higher and higher?
I think it will be more towards the second option. I think that will be more towards like just general collectors who don't. I'm not. This isn't me trying to sound snobby or anything. I don't know more about soccer other than Holland, Mbappe, Messi, Ronaldo. They're like, oh, this is the first stuff that he signed. Okay, we're getting it. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But at those points and stuff, I don't see like new collectors going in and like, ooh, let me pay $3,000 for a PSG set like that. I mean, kids who are super fan because it's a big team. Yeah. I mean that. Like I said, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I think it's just more going to be like the high-end collectors and the breakers
it's the chase card.
That are going to be.
It's the Tom Brady. Yeah. It's the Tom Brady. It's the Zion or Michael Jordan or LeBron. That's what people want to chase, and that's where I think Panini is trying to get as much money as they can out of that market before they sell to Fanatics.
Oh yeah. So. And who knows? Who knows if Mbappe, compared to like all the baseballs that I've seen and the weird autographs that are out there, Luka Doncic's mom rumored to have signed a bunch of his cards or something. Mm-hmm. But who knows? Maybe Mbappe didn't even sign the things. But
so what would be the issue, or what do you think would happen? What if or how long do you believe Mbappe is going to be the best player in the world, or is there somebody that's close to him that is going to overtake him to where, Mbappe is kind of no longer the big name and there's number two. I know Holland's kind of chipping at the heels. You can't really put the Messis and the Ronaldos because those are, let's say, the legend type, the Michael Jordan type for collectors. But is there somebody who's in that number two spot that could be the next big time card?
I think the guys right underneath who are at the next Mbappe level, the two that I would bet on would be Jude Bellingham, who's a teammate of your Mukoku guy, and he's going to be starting for England, and Joao Felix, who is
Joao Felix has been hot,
yeah. I think those are the two guys who are. I think they're both 19 or 20 years old still. But I think those are the two guys that are like, they've got the potential to be the next Mbappes. So,
yeah, I've seen a lot of their stuff, and it's still kind of cheap. Besides, I mean, Jude's kind of all over the place, especially if you get it slabbed. It could be super high. Felix, I've seen some stuff. I've seen a lot of second-year stuff that I passed on. But I kind of agree with you there. Those two guys have the potential to take that number one spot. Let's say if something were to happen, or they reach that potential, they could be in the number one spot there.
Because Mbappe's a haze, so he's talented, but like he may not want to play hard if he knows his team is about to lose. And so what good is he if you got a head case on the team?
Yeah, and he showed a little bit of that last year with him and Neymar really not being on the same page, and kind of like him shutting it down pretty early. And a lot of people were getting on Mbappe because, he, like you said, if he's, put in tough situations, sometimes he's kind of a quitter.
Yeah. And if on the French national team, they've got they've got 2 or 3 guys right behind him that are just as good as him. That okay, you want to be a head case? All right, you're out. We can fill your spot.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, like Joao Felix, he can. I think you get his cards like really good sapphire cards cheaper than Jude Bellingham right now because Joao, he had a whole bunch of hype, and then the last couple of years he's kind of, I wouldn't say his form is down. He's just on a team that likes playing defense a lot more than running forward and scoring.
Mm-hmm.
But he started the year off really, really well and really looked to be like the superstar that he was touted to be. And so I still think you get in on him cheap right now. But yeah, and Bellingham, he's got a crap ton of rookie cards. So I don't know what are the best, but anything that's slabbed of his is pretty expensive still.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff for him is Topps Chrome, especially cracked ices or waves, something like that. Because I've seen the base and the silvers, I think, run anywhere between 100 to 250, maybe 3, and then once you start getting into the parallels and the numbers, then it starts getting into the 3s, 4s, 500s, into the thousands, etc., etc.
But yeah, definitely being a Team England, he's definitely got the biggest hype. Him and Joao are that next level of Mbappe's. And I would have probably said Sancho, but he had such a bad year last year.
And he really leveled off. No, his price is so leveled off after he had that bad year,
which has been great for me, honestly, because he is under this new coach at Man United. He's already scored like 3 or 4 goals this year and is having kind of a renaissance of his career. So I've been able to get some really good slab cards for like a tenth of what they were in January. Awesome. So I'm good at, but he still wasn't called in for the England squad for this next camp. So if he's still, may not be at the World Cup, which at this time last year would have been crazy to think. So
yeah, cool.
But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I know you got to run. Thanks for joining the podcast once again. We'll talk soccer as we get even closer. Remember, follow Josh on Instagram at WhiteFreezeWax. He's always selling cards. Check out his soccer collection, especially if you love the game of soccer. Thank you again for watching and listening to the Dream 3 podcast. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Click, like, and subscribe. The Facebook page, the YouTube page. Thank you again to our sponsors, MySlabs.com. Buy and sell all your slabbed cards, comic books, and wax on there. Don't pay those eBay fees that are ridiculous. MySlabs, you're paying no more than 6% on raw cards, 1% on slabbed cards. Slab Savers, protectyourslabs.com, especially on your high-end stuff. You want to keep it protected in its rightful place. So use code DREAM3. You're going to get 10% off your order for anything that you order. Graded Card Solutions, that's gradedship.com, because when you ship your cards, you want to make sure that people are getting their cards safely, because you can't trust the post office, UPX, FedEx with not running it over or crushing it or whatever, and you don't want that bad feedback. So go to gradedship.com, use code DREAM15. You're going to get 15% off your order. Invest in how you ship your cards. It's worth it. And then finally, Nation Golf Company. If you love the old school golden era of golf, check out our friends at nationgolfco.com. Until next time, this is the Dream 3 podcast. We'll get Neil back on for episode 45. We'll see y'all later.